Hi, my name is Dr. David Campt with the White Ally Toolkit, and I have some reflections that will be useful to you if you're in an ongoing set of conversations with somebody who is leaning toward Mr. Trump and who might not think that Mr. Trump is racially problematic and thus shouldn't be elected on that basis. So I started this project 4 years ago because it was clear to me that white folks did not know how to have this conversation with their people in their family and friends, etc. So now that the election is back, and now that I've trained thousands of white allies in how to have conversations, I thought I should give y'all some insights when particular news events happens that are opportunities to have this conversation. This week you have been given a great set of gifts. So the three incidents were this week. Mr. Trump talked about housewives being happy now that he's gifted them with not having to worry about those low-income people coming to the neighborhoods and lowering their property values. He didn't decry the birtherism article that came out in Newsweek, and he also called Kamala Harris nasty. The best one of those is the first one, is the suburban income thing, and that's been decried as racist by a bunch of news outlets. So what you want to do with that is to look at that as a bridge to having a two-step conversation. The first conversation is whether or not you have scripts in your head that could be appealed to. So basically it's Trump said this, you think that's a problem. Maybe I don't think it's a problem necessarily, they might say, and you say, well, I think it might be a problem because he's appealing to scripts in people's heads about low-income people, or i.e. black folks. And I know I sometimes have scripts about these folks that are in my head. And then you tell your story about you manifesting those scripts in your head by your behavior or by your thoughts. That's the critical thing here, to have that conversation where you're saying to them, I am sometimes affected by these kind of scripts. And then, of course, it's, are you affected by these scripts? Right? You can have that conversation, that they're not. But then you go, I have these scripts, maybe you do, maybe you don't. But then, of course, Trump, as a master marketer, plays on those. And the reason why people are calling this racist is because people have these scripts and he's playing on those. And do we think leaders should do that or not? Don't fall for the trap of deciding to make it racist. And don't fall for the trap of deciding, even if you work through the conversation and he's done that is inherently disqualifying. What you're trying to do is to just get them to admit that he's playing on scripts in people's heads that are racially based. That's the critical move. If you're having a longer term set of sequence of conversations with somebody, you don't have to get the victory today, but you're trying to put a stake in the ground on this because it's so obvious what he did, but it's not obvious to the person you're talking to. Now, further backing that up, but less egregiously and less obviously, is the whole birtherism thing, which he didn't make up but repeated for Barack Obama, and that casts people of color as other, and it sort of taps into that, which is, again, a script in people's heads. And then, of course, there was calling Kamala Harris nasty and mean, which plays to certain tropes. Don't necessarily use the word trope. It's not necessarily helpful to you. But the question is, can you get them to think about whether there are images that politicians play on, and that might be a part of that. This will be more effective, especially for the first one, if they're a woman, most likely, because women are more sensitive to these scripts about women. But here is the point. The point is, you can go from these incidents to you admitting that you have scripts in your head, and then saying, do you? And then from there, is Trump doing that, and is that a problem? So that's a great gift that he has given us this week. An additional opportunity for this week is the things that happened in Chicago with the looting last Monday, where a 20-year-old gets shot by the cops and killed after shooting at the cops, and it spreads as a rumor that a 15-year-old was unarmed, was shot, and then a whole bunch of people got in cars, organized social media, and went downtown to start robbing places. So essentially, this was loosely organized criminals who went on a looting rampage on the Miracle Mile. So if you're in an ongoing conversation with a conservative person, this might be a good time to go to them and say, isn't that awful? You don't, now there's some people going to defend that. I would not suggest you do that. I would suggest that this is organized crime, and you can relate to them empathetically about why they think this is so horrible, and you can understand how, if they think that's what protest is, you understand that because you're against that too. This puts you in a greater position to contrast a peaceful protest or even principled violence, because this is just organized crime under the guise of a protest. So I would use this potentially as a resource if you're in a series of conversations with somebody who looks at these issues very differently. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your allyship. And I'll see you next time there's a news event that I think you can leverage. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, give us that thumbs up. And we read all the comments, so holla, especially if you follow our advice. We'd love to know what happened. If you want more advice about how to become a more effective anti-racist, just hit that subscribe button.